Has Czechia fallen after the far-right party comes in first place in the parliamentary elections? And before we dive in, please do some engagement, follow, and also if you're feeling generous, donate. Andrej Babiš, the billionaire that goes unironically by Czech Trump, is probably more responsible for the decline of Czech democracy than anyone else alive. Babiš is almost a caricature of the corruption of the earlier communist regime, with his father as a high party official giving him an opportunity for education in both Paris and in Switzerland. He would go on to run a company in Morocco for the state, and once he started realizing the system was quickly collapsing, managed to convince his higher-ups to create a little company named Agrifert. Babiš, being a very clever boy, figured out through some shenanigans a way to claim it for his own, making him now the owner of one of the largest agricultural conglomerates in the entire Czech Republic. But Babiš was not content with just looting that part of the corpse of the old communist regime. He went and gobbled up every little bit he could. And to this day, Agrifert continues to gobble up companies from across different industries, including petrochemical, and most important for this story, communications and media. Agrifert has over 100 subsidiaries, operates in over a dozen countries, and employs tens of thousands of people, including many in Czechia. Meaning Babiš is effectively an oligarch amongst oligarchs. At some point, not content with just bribing politicians and squeezing the entire Czech people for all the money that they were worth, he decided to form a political party. ANO, meaning yes in Czech. Now, I think it's quite important to have a little sidebar here that our Czech nationalist that is coming into being was not born in the Czech Republic. He was born in Bratislava, Slovakia. Just enjoy that irony there. Now, at the beginning, ANO tried to present itself as a normal center-right liberal party, including being a member of the Renew group, as in the liberal coalition within the European Parliament. But after being a minister and then prime minister and facing endless corruption scandals because, Mr. Babiš, you did a whole bunch of corruption, including trying to enrich himself and his friends in all of his companies. Well then, ANO took a very, very decidedly different turn because he needed to have a comeback. And what is a better thing to sell than far-right bigotry? ANO and Babiš came out strong at CPAC 2023, the massive American-funded Viktor Orban-backed conference of conservatives in Budapest. And as you can see by this graphic, it is just a who's who of the worst people ever. Shortly afterwards, along with Viktor Orban of Hungary and Mr. Herbert Kickl of Austria, would go on to form the far-right coalition, the Patriots for Europe, which would end up becoming an assortment of all of the worst political parties in Europe as well, including RN from France, with Jordan Bardella becoming the president of their new organization, and Chega from Portugal, along with Vox from Spain, Vlaams from Belgium, and the Dutch far right. Together, they hold about a little over 10% of all the seats in the European Parliament. And many of those parties are either the first or second largest parties and most popular parties in their country, meaning very dangerously close to taking power and shifting the European Union in a further far-right direction. And how would Mr. Babiš govern? Well, we know from last time he was doing a whole bunch of austerity, reducing pensions, increasing the retirement age, and a whole bunch of other things that were really shitty for regular people and really, really good for his business buddies and, oh, of course, himself. To really give you an idea of how ridiculous this is, one of the governments he was involved in collapsed because he wanted to extend a freeze on a fuel tax because, guess what? His company would have had to pay for it. But the new version of 2025 Babiš has decided that he wants to increase welfare spending and do a whole bunch of other Trumpy policies, including his own versions of Doge and also ICE. He's also embraced climate denialism, conspiracy theories about Ukraine, and a love of Mr. Vladimir Putin, along with trying to push for a freeze in the sending of ammunitions to Ukraine. And of course, spreading fear against Muslims, asylum seekers, refugees, and of course, trans people and LGBT people in general. There has been one group that Babiš has singled out more than anyone else for the longest, and this is the Roma population of Czechia, to the point that he has engaged in Holocaust denialism around the Lety concentration camp in Czechia, one that hundreds of Roma people died, were forced into forced labor, and then were relocated to Auschwitz, where most would die. Just like every other right-wing figure around the world, he is trying to convince the Czech people that their problems are not the oligarchs and billionaires like himself that have been in power for literally literally decades, but instead it's actually the poor refugee, the migrant, the trans person. All these people who don't have power are actually the real enemy, and everything would just be utopia if they just listened to Mr. Andrej Babiš. Now, all of this isn't great, but fortunately, he did not win a majority, which means he's going to have to put together a pretty shaky coalition, either a minority government with the far right party being in a supply agreement, or a just over the hump majority government with a far right party that literally wants to have a Czechia referendum. Yes, I'm not joking. They literally want to try to exit the European Union as a landlocked country. Now, all is not lost, and the Czech people have stood up and toppled governments before, and that will need to happen again. Because unfortunately, and I wish more people believe this, I'm tired of seeing the Czech people used as a piggy bank for billionaires like Mr. Babiš. And I really hope that Czech people, including the ones who went and voted for him, wake up very quickly. I believe in Czechia. I believe in the Czech people, and I believe you can beat the billionaire from Bratislava.